Yay! Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. We have a value-packed agenda today. But before I get started, I was wondering who is here at reInvent for the first time? Can you raise your hand? Oh, wow, that's actually quite a few of you. You know, this is my third time at reInvent, and I can tell you it only gets better and better every year. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask after the session. Me or Linda will be happy to help you with any events tips in general, suggesting fun things to do. So my name is Victoria, and I'm joined today by my colleague Linda. We are both part of AWS Developer Relations team. And to tell you the truth, we really love our job because it gives us an opportunity to speak at events like this, create educational content, but more importantly, get your feedback back to our product teams so we can continue to drive innovation together. So if you have also any feedback on the products, please feel free to come and chat with us. We will be happy to get your feedback. So today, before we get started, I want to ask you another question. Do you remember a time when you had to go to a library and go through multiple books just to find a piece of information? Yeah? I see some people nodding. Well, perhaps even now, we not necessarily use hard copies anymore, and maybe when we prepare for professional certifications or doing some kind of a research, we're still trying to find this, some numbers, statistics, right? And we go through multiple white papers, documents, websites. Now, imagine what if you could take all of this information, documents, papers, websites, and convert them to machine-readable format and supplement the generative AI foundations model with this information and get your answers instantly. So no more researching, Googling, trying to find answers. You have all the information right away available. So this is exactly what we will be building today. We will review the generative stack, and we prepared a couple of demos. So let me show you the agenda. So first, we will talk about what it really takes to unlock insights from your data using generative AI services. And it not only the foundation models, it really involves several components. So we'll look at the different integrations. Then we will look into, actually we prepared a couple of demos. So we will do some live coding, where Linda will first show how to use Amazon SageMaker and Amazon Kendra to unlock insights from the data that is stored on your accounts or maybe using a website. Then I will be showing you a different approach, also using Retrieval augmented generation, and we will talk later what it means, with utilizing Amazon Bedrock and vector databases. And at the end, we will summarize these different approaches, talk about pros and cons, and share some key takeaways and also resources for you to get started so you could start building your own solutions. So there recently has been a lot of buzz about generative AI, right? It's like everywhere you go, Gen AI, Gen AI. But what's really the difference between traditional AI and AI? So if you look, let's say in the past year, when we worked on machine learning projects or AI projects, it required several months to build one particular model because we had to do data prep, data labeling, then train model, then tune the model, and all to produce a model for one particular task, let's say object recognition. Well, with generative AI, because they are trained on terabytes of data and have billions of parameters, they can address a wide variety of tasks. So what we will be talking today is how to use custom-specific domain data and then customize it to unlock insights from your enterprise data using the generative AI foundation models. So let's look at the stack. If we look at the stack, it involves kind of like 3 layers. At the top layer, we have user-facing applications. So user-facing applications might be like Amazon Alexa or ChatGPT. Well, those user applications are powered by foundation models. We can categorize them into 2 primary groups. First is proprietary models, like Amazon Titan or Anthropic Claude. We will be actually using both of those models in today's demos. And also open source models. So with open source models, we can deploy, self-manage them, and we will be using today Amazon SageMaker for this. And this can be accessed via model hubs like Hugging Face or SageMaker Jumpstart. So today we will be using Jumpstart. And then at the bottom, we have cloud providers that provide us platforms and tools, as well as hardware to train and run those models. For example, AWS Inferentia or Trainium for such as AI accelerators. So now, just kind of like to bring us, how do we typically interact? Well, we start with a prompt. The prompt might include several components, right? Like first, we start with instructions. You are a data scientist. Then context, you are at a meeting with a customer. And then user input, which is basically a question. Provide us metrics for a proof of concept. Then this prompt goes into LLM, and LLM generates for us output response. I know it kind of sounds almost like a magic, right? We have this dialogue with the foundation model. But in reality, it's just advancements in the technology, and it's not perfect. So here's an example. I'm asking, explain what is Amazon Bedrock. So that's a service that became generally available in October. And here the model provides an answer. It says it's an open source model hub. And for somebody who's actually not familiar with Amazon Bedrock, it might sound like a plausible answer, but it's entirely fictional one. And the reason for this, that's what's called hallucinations. Hallucinations is because the models trained on a static data, and they construct their answers based on the data that is available. And you can see here, I'm asking, are you sure? And I'm getting a response, you're right. My previous answer was incorrect. So it's important for us to put some kind of guardrails and quality assurance and not blindly rely on those foundation models. Besides guardrails, there are ways to customize models so we can get more accurate answer. There are 3 ways we can do it. Well, first way is by doing a prompt engineering. With prompt engineering, we're simply shaping the prompt, include some keywords, include some context, and make the model more aware about what it responds. Maybe like to say, well, think step by step, or things like this. Second way is with fine-tuning. With fine-tuning, we provide the model additional data set, and we further pre-train it. And the third way is information retrieval. And that's what we will be focusing today. With information retrieval, we are not updating the weights of the model, but rather we supplement the model with external data sources. So that's really the focus of today's session. So let's look at how this updates our technical stack. So now you can see here a new layer, orchestration. And this orchestration layer allows us to connect to data sources, so those external data sources. Now we can connect our foundation model to data sources and have, for example, question and answer chain and go back and forth. There are also quite a few developer tools are emerging. So in today's demo, we will be leveraging CodeWhisperer, and you will see how Linda is actually going to code in plain English. Like, she's not going to write a single line of code. She will be only providing the prompts, and CodeWhisperer will be generating the code. So at this point, now I actually want to turn it to Linda, so she could share with you a demo, and you could see things in action. So she will be sharing how to build highly accurate data systems utilizing Amazon Kendra and Amazon SageMaker.
Thank you so much for the insightful overview of the GenAI tech stack. And as Victoria mentioned, we also talked a bit about hallucinations and how we can mitigate that using RAG, using this enterprise data that we can then help mitigate. So with that, whoops, I think I just pressed something. I'm learning how to use this. All right. Well, Victoria also mentioned, before I get into that slide, Victoria also mentioned foundation models. And we mentioned we'll show you 2 demos today, both showing RAG approach. But before we get into that, she talked about foundation models. How do we access them, right? So we will cover a few services for the first demo. And one of the ways to access it is SageMaker, Amazon SageMaker. And Amazon SageMaker makes it very easy and empowers machine learning engineers and data scientists and simplifies the process from model building to deployment, right? Model building, training, deployment. On a high level, on this diagram, you could see that it gives you flexibility and control over the infrastructure and the model management. And SageMaker gives you a lot of different foundation models, both proprietary and open source. It also has built-in algorithms, pre-built machine learning solutions. And one thing we will use in our demo is SageMaker endpoints. It makes it very easy to deploy those machine learning models as SageMaker endpoints. It also helps you fine-tune. As Victoria mentioned, right, we saw there's many ways to improve and customize your foundation models. And it lets you choose computation power. You can balance your performance and your cost. And that's a high overview of SageMaker. And again, we're just going through a few of the services we will use in our upcoming demo. So now that we went through a broad, quick overview of SageMaker, I want to shift your focus to SageMaker Jumpstart. I love that name, Jumpstart. This is if you want to get started quickly. And I don't know about you, but anytime you tell me I could get started quickly building some of this, I say absolutely. So it also has some new generative AI capabilities. And essentially how it works is this. First step, you will choose a foundation model. There are over 150 pre-trained models. And it's only with a few clicks. It has industry-leading models to choose from, AI21 Labs, Hugging Face, Stability AI. And with the click of a button, it will give you the code that you need to deploy this model. So the next step is, you can now try out this model. You can explore with it. So let's say if you just want to play around with it, you could just explore with it. Or you can deploy it as an endpoint, right? And then you can also fine-tune this model. And you can improve it, right, and customize it. And one thing to note, all the data stays in your AWS account and ensures security and privacy, right? So it really is a way to jumpstart your process. So that's an overview of service 1 we're going to use out of 3 that we want to quickly cover before our demo. The next service I want to introduce you to is Amazon Kendra. Now, Amazon Kendra is very accurate, intelligent enterprise search service and is powered by machine learning. And how are we using Kendra? We're going to be using Kendra to augment that data, right? We're going to augment our LLM to use this enterprise data. Kendra is going to help us search through all that enterprise data. Because if you have this data, you need to be able to search through it, and Kendra is optimized to do that, right? It's going to help you search through all that enterprise data. And it also has a lot of new generative AI capabilities that were recently launched. We will get to that in our demo. And we're using it for a few reasons. Number one, it's accurate. It's very good with reading comprehension. It's context aware, and it's pre-trained on 14 domains. It also continuously improves. The second, whoops, I just went back. One moment, there we go. The second thing, it's my favorite part, it is very easy to use. It has something called connectors. What are connectors? Pretty much, you're able in a click of a button to connect to different data sources with no coding, right? It has 50 plus connectors. You will see this. It's nicer to see visually, but this is the theoretic version. And it has an expanding list of connectors. So let's say you want to connect to an S3 bucket. You want to connect and web crawl something. It just has this connector. You fill out all the little prompts, and you're already connecting it to Kendra, which is an index. And all you have to do is target that index. And you could have all these different sources, and it's machine learning powered, so it will intelligently search through that enterprise data you give it, right? And it makes it much easier to bring that data in. Third, it's secure. It's encrypted in transit and at rest. And the last one, which you will see in the demo also, it's very easy to integrate Kendra with large language models. There are some recent updates with Kendra. There's a generative AI update that is called the Retrieval API that is optimized for building Gen AI applications. And it's especially utilized for RAG workflow, right? So which is what we're going to be showing. So that's an overview of Kendra. That's service 2. So one more service we're going to cover before we get building, because of course we love to build. This is the third service we'll be using today. It improves developer productivity. And it's an AI intelligent coding companion, trained on billions of lines of code, and it gives suggestions right in your IDE. Now, one of my favorite parts, well, it has many great features. One of them is it has built-in security scans, so it finds vulnerabilities. 2, it also has reference tracking. So let's say you have open source code, and it could kind of flag it for you, and then you could decide if you want to attribute it to that, or you want to use it or not. And my favorite part, it is free for individual use. So you can use it for free on any of their favorite IDEs, VS Code, SageMaker Studio. So that, to me, is like very easy to get started. It supports 15+ programming languages, many different IDEs. And there's a recent customization capability that if you are in an organization, you can have an enterprise account, and it could be trained on your internal code base, so it will give you suggestions that are much more tailored to your organization. Pretty cool. So those are 3 services. We covered SageMaker. We covered part of a feature we'll use, SageMaker Jumpstart, Kendra, and CodeWhisperer. And before we get into the demo, I want to ask you all a question. So let's do a quick poll. So here, we're going to allow 45 to 60 seconds if you could scan the QR code. And we'll ask you, have you used an AI coding companion in the past? Kind of to get a pulse of the room. And I'm going to give you a few seconds here to answer that. You'll get to not hear my voice for about 45 seconds, which is nice. I think we could check some of the results so we could bring in some of the results of the poll just to see. It'll show it live. OK. It's kind of like a 70-ish, 60-ish percentage. All right. So some of you have. I guess more than 50% of you have used AI coding companions. Some of you have not. Well, either way, you'll see both tips and tricks, specifically with CodeWhisperer, coming up. And if we can, let's go also to our next slide, back to the slide. And we're going to do one more poll, because we would love to see what programming languages you all use. So with that, let's go to our next poll. One more poll, and then we get into the demo. So if you could scan again the QR code, and we want to know, what is your preferred programming language? OK, look, Python is the winner. OK, good, because we're using Python. I was a little nervous. Woo, I was a little nervous, by the way, but there we go. Let's see. So we have 114 votes for Python. Oh, I could look here. 23 votes for JavaScript, 34 votes for Java, 32 other. What is the other? Want to call it out? Some other? What's the other? Go. All right, all right. Well, we love to see it. Today, the beauty is with AI coding companions, you could use so many languages and not even have to know the syntax, although we like that as builders, but you know. Now, I think we're ready to go into the demo, right? So should we get building? Let's get into it. So what are we going to build? Our first demo is RAG approach with Amazon Kendra. Anytime you see RAG approach, okay, we're saying we want to use external data sources and to augment our application, our large language models, right? Because you have a general large language model, as Victoria showed, it might not know the answer to something, and we're customizing it using this RAG approach, right? This enterprise data, your customer data. And what data are we using today? We're going to use, for the purposes of this demo, US inflation data. You can see a little screenshot over there of it. And it's going to be CSV data, PDF data as well, and a few others. And essentially how it's going to work is this. See my face over there? Imagine yourself. And you are typing in SageMaker Studio in a notebook. And we're going to query and ask, oh, one more thing. See that square on the side over there? That's all the data types that Kendra supports, just so you're aware. Because, of course, the tools you use matter as far as your use case, and it depends on the data you're working with. So back to the flow of what we're building. So I'm the user here. Imagine yourself. And you're going to ask, what is the inflation rate in 2022? Okay? And that is going to start a QA chain with LangChain, the nice parrot over there. And what is that going to do? It's going to go to Kendra index, and search through our enterprise data that we provide and connect to Kendra to find the context based on our question. That question is going to get some context. Oh, inflation data? OK, let me go find what is related to that in that enterprise data that Kendra is going to help us search through, because it's an intelligent search service. And then it's going to take that context, and it's going to return it back. And as a prompt to a large language model, deployed by SageMaker, we're going to use Llama 2 for purposes of this demo. And then SageMaker endpoint, we're going to do it through an SageMaker endpoint, and then that's going to return the response and come back to our notebook. OK, so that's going to be what we're building in demo 1. So I guess let's start building. OK, so we're going to start with SageMaker Jumpstart. And you see there's a foundation model button, and you're going to see how quickly it is that you could get started. We're going to choose Llama 7 billion parameters, Llama 2 7 billion parameters. It is going to generate a notebook, and that notebook has all the code that we need to deploy as an endpoint and the payload, right? So it kind of gives you already, in a click of a button, all the code that you need to start building. And so now we're going to open a different notebook. We're going to open a new one, SageMaker Studio. We have CodeWhisperer already enabled, and we're going to use this inflation data. This inflation data, we're going to download it as a CSV, US inflation data. This is what it looks like. And first step, any machine learning project, you got to prepare the data and clean it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to import some libraries and download some of this data locally. If you put the CSV data in the S3 bucket, you would have it there. And now we're going to use CodeWhisperer to clean this data. All we're going to do is use CodeWhisperer to clean this data. We're going to maybe get the 14 first records of this CSV data. And as you can see, I don't need to remember any of the syntax. I am coding in pure English, natural language, and I'm able to pretty much get the code. It auto-completes for me. Here, you could do it in 2 ways. You could either write a comment and it will give you code, or you could start typing and it auto-completes. And all I have to do is press tab to accept. And here I'm cleaning the data. I had some non-values, and I wanted to remove those non-values. So I say, please remove those non-values. And it drops it, or I tell it to drop the column. Here I have some non-values, and I want to change it to 0. So I ask it to do that. And you're really able to code much faster. I don't need to search through anything. I don't need to remember the syntax. I'm able to just do that. Now, let's say I want to actually create a visualization in my notebook. OK? So I'm going to ask, I'm going to comment, and it's really all the logic. That's the main thing. I'm going to ask build chart that shows, I'm reading this with you, rate change over time. And over here, look, it generates already what I need to have imported. I didn't need to think through the libraries I need. It generates a few lines of code, and I'm able to get this visualization. Now, this one's a little basic, so maybe I want to make it a little nicer. So let's also add some more things. So let's ask it to also have rate change over time and annual change. OK? So we're going to make it a little fancier. And again, I could add labels and titles, and it starts generating multiple lines of code. It will import certain things. It will make it, you could also have some blocks of code generated. You could press the up and down button with CodeWhisperer to get some other options. OK, so let's say I cleaned my data. I prepared my data. Great. Now, the beauty with CodeWhisperer is it's optimized for AWS services. So it's able to really work well with AWS services. And here I'm asking it save my data to an S3 bucket. I finished cleaning the data. I want to upload it now to S3. OK? So I ask it copy file to S3 bucket. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see that it works. OK, uploaded. And now we're going to verify that it's there. And we see it's in the S3 bucket. Great. OK, so we just prepared our data. That was all local, right? Took some data from an S3 bucket, downloaded it. Let's say, imagine you have enterprise data that maybe is not in public. You want to maybe clean it, do all that, use CodeWhisperer. And now, I think the next step is, we want to utilize this data with a large language model, right? So the next step is to deploy this model that we had, Llama 2, and invoke the endpoint. So we're going to use Llama 2 to do this. All the code in this part is actually going to be from our SageMaker Jumpstart notebook that we already had, right? So we are going to deploy this as an endpoint, as a SageMaker endpoint. SageMaker gives you a full suite. And here I could verify, here's my endpoint. This is what it would look like. You would have an endpoint, and you're able to now target this endpoint. So now we're going to go back, and we have a payload, and we're going to input with that endpoint, and we're going to actually ask it, what is the US inflation rate in 2022? Let's see if it knows the answer. So let's give it a moment to do that. And it tells me, oh no, it doesn't have that data. Why? It's not connected to my enterprise data. And a general large language model is not always optimized, right, with that kind of data. So we want to actually add a few things. So let's look at for a second at the architecture of what we already did. We deployed a SageMaker endpoint, right, with Llama 2. We asked it, what is the inflation rate? We got back a response that did not have the enterprise data. We also cleaned some data, OK? It was CSV data. That's lovely. But now we need to connect it to Kendra. We haven't done that yet, right? So let's do that right now. So we're going to now set up Kendra. And we're going to add also a few other data types. So you could see it's a many-to-one type service. Kendra, you can have one index and have all these different types of data in that. So you're able to just target that index. So how do we do that? Remember, my favorite part about Kendra, connectors. You have 50-plus connectors, no code. You could connect to all these external data sources very easily. So we were using a CSV file, S3 bucket. But let's say, for purposes of this demo, I have a US inflation rate data on a website. So I want to actually just scrape the data off the website so I don't have to actually try to check if anything's updated there. You could have scheduled checking, but on a website, it has it updated. So all I had to do is fill out that form, and I'm able to just have a web scraper of data that's on a website. So if you have data that you want to crawl, you could just add it as a connector. So here it's going to be the same data that we just used also for CSV file, but it could be different types of data. And you could see this is my index for Kendra, and I have all these different data sources. Now, let's say I want to add also a PDF, because I want to see if it works also with unstructured data. I want to see if it could read these tables. This is a Starbucks annual report. So we're going to add that also to our index. We're just going to collect some other data sources and just see if it understands and is able to customize our application. So we're going to add this. It's 100-plus pages PDF. And let's see if this works for our application. All right, so what did we do till now? We deployed the SageMaker endpoint. We asked it, what is the inflation rate? We set up Kendra, right? And we cleaned our data. But now, the best part, RAG approach. We want to actually be able to search through Kendra and then utilize that data and ask our large language model, what is the inflation data, US inflation data in 2022, right? And the best part is Kendra has these new generative AI tools that essentially, it's one API call called the Retrieval API that is built for this. It's one API call, and we'll be able to do it. So let's do that now. Part 3 of this notebook, RAG workflow, we're going to combine Kendra with our large language models. And we're saying, hey, use this Retrieval API, get that data from Kendra, ask again the large language model the question. So let's do that now. Let's actually query what is the US inflation data in 2022. And look at that. It starts the QA chain, gets the context of the information we gave it in Kendra, and then gives it back to us, finishes the chain, gives it back to us. What's the answer? 8%. Now we're going to verify that it actually is the case. We look here on the website. It is 8%, and it was able to read a table. Great. I didn't even need to prepare some of this data, right, because that was a web scraper. Now, remember, we also added a PDF. For purposes of this demo, we want to see how it works with different data sources. And we're going to ask how many stores opened in 2022 in Starbucks, and it was 437. Now, if we look at this PDF, this was in a table, in an unstructured PDF, 100-plus pages, and it was able to get it to us very quickly. And so this is an example of how you would really augment your applications to be optimized for your business and optimized for your customer. And that's the difference. Data is the difference between a general application and something that is customized. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Victoria, who will show you another demo that shows you for other use cases with RAG approach.
Thank you, Linda. I really loved your example and how you showed different data types, and particularly web scraper, so easy to use, and all you have to do is just provide the link. Well, now I'm going to talk about a different demo. And we will be utilizing vector databases. Why vector databases? Well, actually, vector databases have been gaining popularity with the rise of generative AI. And there are several reasons for this. First of all, they are optimized for similarity search. So where we have, where a fast retrieval speed is critical, and you will see there will be some metrics, the query will execute like 0.1 second. That's where you might want to look and start utilizing vector databases. Also, vector databases can store different data modalities. So, for example, here Linda shared the table earlier with Amazon Kendra. You saw it's mostly like documents, right? But what if you have different audio, video files? Maybe some of you like working in a healthcare provider and you have some imaging data, clinical data, sequence data. So this kind of data can be converted to vectors and stored in vector databases. Also, vector databases are highly dimensional. So where traditional databases struggle, that's where you can also utilize vector databases. So let's look back to our technical stack. So here now you can see data platforms. So what I will be showing next, we will be using a third-party vector database because we want to show you how, besides utilizing Amazon services, how you can connect and expand the application with other enterprise systems. So we will be using Pinecone database, which is quite popular nowadays. You can also think about other enterprise systems. It might be, let's say, Salesforce. And really, as an enterprise, in order for you to maximize the value of generative AI, you really have to think about how to build those pipelines to your tools, applications, and data sources. And there are a lot more different blocks that I should add in this stack. However, we only have 45 minutes, so we cannot cover every single tool. But of course, setting up guardrails, thinking about the policy, security are all important questions when it comes to building generative AI applications. So if you remember earlier, I asked the question, what is Amazon Bedrock? And I got some wrong answer, right? So let's fix this. And we will do this by providing documentation from Amazon Bedrock website. So we will download the documentation. We will convert it to vector embeddings. And we'll see if we will get the right answer. So earlier, Linda described how we can access foundation models with Amazon SageMaker. But recently, we announced Bedrock. So why not to use Bedrock to ask, what is Bedrock? So what is actually Bedrock? Well, Bedrock, unlike SageMaker, whereas with SageMaker you have to host and deploy it, so Linda had to do the steps, you can simply use API and you can access different models. So you have one API, all you have to provide is just the name of the model, and now you can start interacting and trying different models. There are quite a few actually models available, like AI21 Lab, Stability AI, Anthropic. So we will be using Anthropic now. And what's really good that Bedrock is serverless. So when you don't use Bedrock, you don't have to pay for it, right? So with SageMaker, you deploy an endpoint. Whether you're using it or not, you're going to pay for it. So it's really make it cost effective, as well as you don't have to manage infrastructure. So how do you get started with Amazon Bedrock? Well, first of all, you can get started by just simply using UI. And there is what's called playground, where you can select a model. You can also adjust hyperparameters. And you can experiment and find what model really fits to your use case. It's not like a one model that's going to rule the world, and we have to all use it. You really have to identify which model is best for you, as well as which model is better cost optimized, right? You can use Llama 70 billion parameter, or you can use 7 billion parameters. So you have to be kind of like aware of this cost. Second thing with Bedrock, you can also customize it. So if you have data in, let's say, you can upload data in S3, you can use it as a training data set, validation data set, and now you can further pre-train the model. You can also connect to different data sources. So that's what we will be using with a RAG approach, where we are not going to modify code, right? We're just going to connect to external resources. And if you watched the keynote today, Adam announced that now Amazon Bedrock agents became publicly available. So for the task that requires orchestrating complex tasks, that's where you can build agents. And what's really good, that the data that you're utilizing is not being shared with foundation models, so you can customize and utilize your data with respect to privacy and security. Now, let's look at architecture, what we're going to build. So first, we're going to take the documents. And unfortunately, not like Linda shared with Kendra, we cannot just simply start utilizing these documents. We have to first convert them to vectors. And to do this, we have to use embedding model. And as you probably aware, for each foundation model, there is a limit in terms of token. So when we provide the prompt or when we provide the document, there are a certain number of tokens that we can utilize. So we cannot simply convert the documents to vectors. We have to first split them. So in our case, we will be splitting them to 1,000 tokens, and we will be using Amazon Titan models that is up to 8,000 tokens. Once we split the this, we will get vectors. This is a very primitive kind of representation of what vector is, just to show you. This is like a 3-dimension. We will be utilizing 1,536 dimensions today. But you get an idea that similar objects, they kind of cluster together. So here we have fruits, right, on one side, and then animals on the other side. So similar text will be clustered together. If it's similar images, they will be also clustered together. And when we execute, we are really doing the similarity search, and it will return to us this kind of similar objects. Those objects will be represented as vectors and will be stored in a vector database. So we will be using Pinecone, but there are also, you can use OpenSearch, you can use RDS, pgvector, and many other databases. So once we prepare the data, now we'll be using LangChain to act as an orchestrator between Bedrock and our vector database, our vector store. So we will use LangChain to get the relevant information, and we can provide how many paragraphs we want to return. And then once we get this context, we will send it to Bedrock, and Bedrock will provide us a response. And I will get an answer in SageMaker. So just similar as Linda showed SageMaker Studio, I will be similarly doing the demo in SageMaker Studio. So let's get to building. So the first thing that I'll do, we will go to Bedrock. So with Bedrock, you will need to enable the models. So you'll go to the model section. You can enable the models. Once you enable them, then you can go to console, to the playground, and start experiments. And so if you see here, I selected text playground, Claude 2, and you can adjust different hyperparameters. You can see how your model responds, so that you know, well, is this a good model for my use case or not? You can see it provided a streaming answer, and it actually said, well, it's internal system. Amazon Bedrock is internal system developed for Amazon. That's obviously incorrect, so let's fix this. We will copy the API, and now we will simply insert this API into SageMaker Studio. And you can see it provides me the same answer, the wrong answer. So now we have to fix this. So the second step is let's prepare now our data. So we will use Amazon Titan. That's what's specified here. We'll use Titan model for converting. So now what we do, we have to download the documents, right? We have to convert them to vectors. So simply providing the 2 links to the documents, now they're stored locally, and now we are ready to actually start chunking them. So this block is just to chunk the documents and split them into 1,000 tokens each chunk. This is how the chunk will look like. You can see like about 2 rows. Once we have chunks, let's initialize Pinecone. So with Pinecone, you can see it's just a simple API. And for the demo, you can create one free index You can see what parameters are suggested depending on the embedded model. And that's it. Basically, you just initialize, and now you can start utilizing this index. All you have to do is provide the index name. So now let's convert just one chunk to see how the vector looks like. So you can see this is like the mathematical representation. And let's convert these two documents. It's going to take a little bit of time. And the more documents you have, of course, the more time it's going to take. So you can see it took about 1 minute, 4 seconds to convert 2 PDF documents that are about 150 pages each. And once it's converted, so now it's in the vector database, so you can see it in the console. You can also see the metrics here. And on the very right side, there is like a spike of insert, right? There was this insert made. So you can see how your database is being leveraged. OK, so what we've done so far, we took the documents, right? We downloaded them. We chunked them into 1,000 tokens each. We converted them to vectors, and we stored into Pinecone. Now we have to do this orchestration, right? We have to use the similarity search, utilizing LangChain, and then pass this information to Bedrock. And we will see if we get the right response this time. So now, just asking a query. Return me the 3 relevant answers. Provide the 3 relevant answers. And now we can use this information to do the search. And now we got our answer that it is the Amazon Bedrock is leveraged to access foundations models via API. It's a bit of a short, right? Like we want to get more details. That's where we can use prompt engineering and say, well, we really want to have more details. You can adjust. You can fine-tune the parameters. And now you can see it provides a more descriptive answer, talks about the playgrounds that we saw earlier. And you can continue experiment. You don't have to use Bedrock with RAG. You can use it with RAG, without RAG, and compare the answer. So here I'm asking, what are the key features? And I'm getting, oh, Bedrock is a blockchain. Obviously, it's incorrect. So then similar question, what are the key features? And then we can see that those key features are coming from the document. I know the both demos were kind of like fast, and we had to speed them up. So let's just summarize what's the difference between these 2 demos. So first, Linda talked how you can access foundations models using SageMaker. So with SageMaker, she had to first deploy the foundation model as an endpoint, and then invoke this endpoint. Then she used Kendra, where she didn't have to do any kind of data prep, right? She simply just went and said, OK, this is my index. Those are my data sources. And utilizing the Kendra index, she started getting all of the information back. Then in the second demo, we showed how you can utilize Bedrock and skip the step of deploying the models, right? And instead utilize Amazon Bedrock, the serverless service, and simply utilize API and get access to foundation model. And then we use the vector databases to get the similarity search. And in the demo, did it show? It was like there was at some point it was supposed to show that there was query was taking 0.1 seconds, so it was like really, really fast. So if you need to store different modalities and access different modality data like image and text, that's when you might want to use vector databases. So one is serverless, right? Another one you have to manage. With Kendra, really easy to use. The other one, you have to do the data prep. It's, of course, you don't have to use, let's say, SageMaker with Kendra. You can use Bedrock with Kendra, right? Or you can use SageMaker with vector databases. So we just try to cover as many different components as possible in today's session just to show you the different approaches that are available for you. Well, now I want to actually ask Linda to summarize some of the key takeaways from this session and also share some of the resources so you can start building your own applications.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you for showing the different differences we saw with RAG approach. And so we covered a lot, right? There was a lot of things. And so if you were to walk away with anything, let it be these 3 takeaways, okay? So 1, foundation models are powerful but have limitations. We saw we had hallucinations, and we were able to mitigate that using RAG approach, one of 3 ways that Victoria mentioned. 2, you want to work backwards to select the right use case. We showed you 2 different demos. It really depends on the type of data you're working with and what you're trying to build. And one of them, we had vector databases. The other, we were using Kendra, depending on the type of data you have, depending on the right use cases for you. So you have to work backwards from that. And 3, your data is the differentiator, right? That is the difference between a general AI application and one that is customized for your use case and for your business. So that's the main thing. And of course, the best way to learn is to build. So we want to give you a few resources to get started if you want to start building with the RAG approach and really get the different experience. These workshops are kind of end to end. So the first workshop there, you could take a screenshot. That way you have all the QR codes. The first workshop, SageMaker workshop, would align to what we covered in the first demo. The second workshop, Bedrock, would align to what Victoria covered in the second demo. And the third one is CodeWhisperer. They go deeper, and you're able to kind of experiment with labs as well in there. So very helpful. And we hope you get started building. We hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you. And of course, connect with us on LinkedIn. If you build anything, tag us. And also complete the survey if you can. And if you